Is Russia buying Bitcoin? Are the French going to have a run on their ATMs? And are central banks preparing to introduce national currencies, national cryptocurrencies that are citizens? There's a lot to know what's going on. Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are Minting Coins, your trusted source for crypto news and interviews and everything that's happening in the Bitcoin and open blockchain space. Now, in this industry with the technology and the collaboration of people coming together to build new systems to replace these old systems, which just haven't worked for so many people in the entire world, across the entire world, and people in different countries from the United States to China to Russia to all these other countries across Europe and Africa and the rest of the world. The way that the global system of finance, the global system of technology, the global system of relationships interconnected with each other just hasn't connected everybody, has excluded some people, and not everybody says it's an even playing field. Not everyone says it's a fair game. And because of that, we see a lot of tension. We see a lot of discord. We see a lot of disagreements, to put it lightly, from lots of different people across the world. We see this from protesters in the streets from countries all across the world, namely in terms of current events. We have what's happening in France, but then we also see this microcosm on a bigger scale, what's happening between countries like the United States and Russia and Iran and China, the way that they're interacting with each other, the way that they're mingling with each other, and how this is crossing over into Bitcoin and different cryptocurrencies. So with that being said, let's take a look at the market, pop around the news, and discuss exactly what's happening, what's going on, and how this may relate to you if you're someone who understands Bitcoin or is planning on studying Bitcoin to see how this technology could affect you and people in your community. So starting over here at livecoinwatch.com, we see Bitcoin took a pretty substantive hit in the past couple of days. Currently it's hovering around $3,600, $3,700. And by the time you're seeing this video, it could be way higher, way lower, or possibly the same. If we had a guess, it's probably going to go lower. We saw CNBC this morning said that Bitcoin is up about 20% and that now is a great time to buy. And we immediately knew now is not a good time to buy. If CNBC is telling us to buy Bitcoin, then it's just a counter indicator. It's a negative indicator. And 9 times out of 10, all you have to do is the opposite of what CNBC says, and you're going to be good to go. But across the space, a lot of respectable traders who understand the technical analysis, who understand the fundamental analysis, and most importantly, they understand what Bitcoin is, why it's different, and the monetary policy that Bitcoin is providing. Even these guys are saying that Bitcoin could go a lot lower, that we haven't seen the bottom. At least there's a high degree of likelihood that we have not seen the bottom yet, and it could go down further. But we got to keep in mind that right now with Bitcoin at $3,666, that the risk of it going down to zero is approximately $3,666. And minus some catastrophic attack or failure, that's not going to happen because, you're going to buy it all or I'm going to buy it all before it gets that low, right? Before it goes down to zero. But counter that, on the opposite side of the equation, the risk of Bitcoin going to infinity is asymmetrically unbalanced, right? So the chance of it going down to zero is only from $3,000. The chance of it going to $100,000 or $1 million, there's nothing stopping it. If everybody in the world, for some reason, wanted one Bitcoin right now, we know that the technology is there. We know that the infrastructure is there. We know that it is possible for anyone to take advantage of this situation, to purchase into Bitcoin, to get inside the network. But Bitcoin is limited. Bitcoin is scarce. And we have to realize, even though that Bitcoin could go down, there could be some sort of major event, you know, a red flag, a black swan, something that we're planning on seeing, something that we can predict. It could be something that we can't predict. And so there's a lot of things happening across the world. So looking at the Bitcoin rich list, if you own more than $100 of Bitcoin, then you are an early adopter. You're a part of the new 1%. There's only 4 million people, less than 5 million people that own more than $100 in Bitcoin. There's billions of people in this world. So if you have even a fraction of a Bitcoin, then you are miles ahead of everybody else in terms of understanding this technology and being able to use and experiment with and share this information with other people. Because by the time everyone understands that we should look into Bitcoin and have Bitcoin, and we should have been talking about this a lot sooner. By the time that happens, it's going to be way too late. By the time that happens, something's going to have happened where people are going to recognize the benefits. They're going to recognize that maybe Lightning Network is taking off, maybe adoption is taking off, maybe the demand is taking off, especially when you compare that to what may be happening to the US dollar and global debt across the world, as we were talking about in our last video. This could all tip the scales very, very quickly. So the sooner you understand this technology and get involved, the better. One of the ways that you can keep yourself involved is by joining Twitter, joining Reddit, probably, you know, the top 2 websites where the majority of people are using, and you could really get the best information through all the algorithms, even though there's a lot of shadow banning going on and a lot of funny business going on across these platforms. You can follow us on Twitter. We're minting coins, twitter.com/minting coins, and on twitter.com/Gary Palmer Jr. You can follow us to, you know, get our take on what we're sharing with the world, what we're curating from our point of view, our perspective in terms of what's important. So you can, learn about some blogs that might be really interesting to read about how to protect your privacy, or, see what's happening with the world economy and what Russia is planning to do. Just our take and understanding how the FDIC works and how there is not enough money in the FDIC. Right? There's only $8 billion, give or take, in FDIC insurance, while there's trillions of dollars in debt deposits for the, all the people who are holding money in the bank. So there's a lot of concern. There's a lot of worry. As Gem Crypto was saying the other day, when the shit is starting to hit the fan, and as people all over the world start withdrawing all their money from the banks, it's not going to take long for them to realize that the banks never had, and never will have their money. And that 2019 is going to be a very, very interesting year, and we couldn't agree more with you, Jem. The Bitcoin economy will not be televised, and if it is televised, there's going to be lots of commercials in between. There's going to be lots of commentary and narration in between. And if you really want the real information, then you should really start learning about this now, start plugging into this now, and start making yourself a decentralized component of this new ecosystem, this new industry, these new ways of connecting with people and building relationships using decentralized protocols. Because as Dennis Parker was saying, just a friendly reminder that every 24 days, the US national debt grows more than the entire market cap of Bitcoin. And so the amount of money overall inside Bitcoin is extremely low, and it would not take a very large event to open the floodgates into the amount of capital that starts exiting the stock market, corporations, central banks, treasury reserves from nations and nation states, all sorts of private capital, investment, institutional money that can flood into Bitcoin, exploding the price very, very quickly based on the limited supply of total Bitcoin that's existing right now in the world. And so there's a lot happening out there. There's a lot going on in the world. And one of those things that's happening, right, with the United States and Russia and China and Iran and all of these issues of the government being shut down and the SEC and the FTC being, shut down, and Americans not getting their tax refunds, and a lot of Americans not even being paid right now who work for, different departments and aspects of the United States government, people who have done nothing wrong, who are in need of feeding their families as well. And then we have the tariff situation with China, which is causing a lot of hardship for different people around the world, for better or for worse, whether you agree with it or not, that Trump's strategy is a good strategy. This is definitely creating a difficult financial situation for Americans all across the country and for countless other people, millions of other people in nations all across the world. And so what's happening right now with the word on the street is that Russia could be, about to diversify hundreds of billions of dollars of its capital reserves, which is probably mainly held in US dollars right now. And they could be putting that money into Bitcoin, and that could trigger a massive rush into Bitcoin. Just like when you play chess, would you like to play a game and someone makes that first move, the logical next step after the first player makes the first move is for another player to make their first move. And it will be unavoidable, it will be unstoppable, because of the simple game theory mechanics where, no one is going to want to be the first to get into the game. The game of Bitcoin, the game of, turning Bitcoin into a world reserve currency. And at the same time, no one wants to be last. And let me tell you, being second or third or fourth is way more advantageous than being the second from last or third to last or fourth to last, right? You really want to be above the mean in terms of your position of the country that gets involved in Bitcoin, even though you may not want to be number one or number two. So who we have here is we have this one Russian, Mr. Ginko, a lecturer at Moscow's Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration, who is anticipating these new sanctions that are going to be coming out against Russia in February. And so as these new sanctions come out, when they come out, they may force Russia to take their $466 billion in reserves and to diversify a percentage of that into Bitcoin. Now, Russia is playing this so intelligently because they're not proactively taking that money and putting it into Bitcoin. They're waiting for America essentially to make that first move. They're waiting for America to initiate some sort of catalyst or some sort of stimulus or some sort of trigger that essentially forces Russia to take a percentage of that money and to diversify it into Bitcoin, which is then going to give, the go-ahead to a lot of these other countries that maybe they should also think about this and get involved with this, right? Either the countries proper or, the treasuries, the treasury departments of those governments proper, and or the central banks, which issue the fiat currencies for these nations and these regions around the world. So Mr. Ginko goes on to say that he believes that Russia is going to do this, that he believes the sanctions are coming, and that he believes that that will be the response of the Russian government to happen. He is going on and saying that Russia is not against cryptocurrencies. And that's something that we've reported here on this channel throughout all of last year, is that while the central banks of Russia haven't been too keen on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, the executive government, if you will, and Putin himself have been goo-goo for Cocoa Puffs, right? He's just been very pro-cryptocurrencies, pro-Ethereum, pro-Bitcoin, because of his recognition that it may not be good for his company, but against the sanctions that may be coming from the United States, perhaps the enemy of your enemy is also your friend. And in this case, it would make Russia and Bitcoin very close friends. So to underscore some of this 3D chess that's going on, back in the Q4 last year, this is what we had reported on before, that the President Putin from Russia had said, is that they have no goal of moving away from the dollar. And he was saying that it's the dollar that's moving away from us, and that those decisions are not, those making such decisions are not shooting themselves in the foot, but somewhere more delicate, further up the body. And so, again, this is just his positioning, his posturing, and how his government, how his central banks may purchase into Bitcoin because of the repercussions that that could have against Russia from the United States, because the United States may not look highly upon them moving away from the dollar and dumping the dollar because of such the economic devastation that could cause to the United States. And so this is just very, very interesting. Then we could have this trigger with other Russians purchasing crypto, other people purchasing crypto. This could cause major news, cause a major panic, cause a major run for Bitcoin, dramatically spiking the price of Bitcoin, which could happen coming into the next Bitcoin halving in 2020, which is less than 18 months away. There's a lot of pieces. They're all coming together. And it's happening right in front of our eyes. And the only people who are seeing it are the people who care to pay attention, the people like you and the people like I, and a lot of other people. We just need to be part of this conversation and keep paying attention to what's happening, and keep understanding this technology, and to continue sharing this information with the other people in our lives. So Russia is one place, and then moving over into Europe, we have lots of rumors coming out of the French yellow vest movement as it relates to Bitcoin. We have some rumors that are talking about how there may be a run on the banks, how French yellow vest protesters may be going to the banks and the ATMs and withdrawing their money, withdrawing their value, which is really going to hurt the people in power, the people that have lots of money, the people who leverage the banks to make money, not the people who have to use banks and get charged money, right? And you know who you are. If you're someone that's ever been hit with a $37 Wells Fargo fee or some sort of ATM fee or overdraft fee, then you're someone where the banks aren't working for you, and the banks probably aren't serving your best interests. And if you're someone where you're just collecting the money as it roll in because you already have all this other money in the bank, then what's happening is that would be a negative situation, because when people start pulling their money out of the bank, it's going to make the whole system collapse. As we were talking about earlier, in the United States and Russia and France, it doesn't matter where you go, there's not enough money in the world to pay back the debt that exists. It's all based on debt. It's all based on promises. It's all backed up by nothing but pieces of paper. And at some point, all these pieces of paper are going to come falling down like a house of cards. But what's going to remain is going to be the realest assets, the most tangible assets, assets like gold, assets like silver, and assets, real tangible assets like Bitcoin. Other rumors coming out of France is that, even though the country says Bitcoin isn't legal and it's unregulated and people can't sell it, we have some French tobacco shops that may actually be selling Bitcoin. And so, again, there's a lot of discord and dismay and tensions arising around the world, and people are looking to Bitcoin, let it be protesters on the streets, or let it be these major governments around the world are looking to Bitcoin as a way that can solve their problems, because it's decentralized, because it's borderless, because it's permissionless, because it's immutable, because it's the most difficult blockchain to roll back, because Bitcoin is the blockchain that has the greatest degree of security, even though it has the least amount of functionality, and it may be not the cheapest and not the fastest and maybe not always the most efficient nor the most private, but it is the most secure, and it has the policy, the monetary policy, which is the most difficult to roll back or to change, because of just how it works and what Bitcoin is. Not that we don't love other projects like Ethereum and Zencash and different other blockchains, Monero. It's just that there's a lot of pieces in here, and there's a lot of education, and there's a lot of building happening. And we don't want to confuse the one thing Bitcoin does really, really well with the potential that other projects can really also meet the needs that people have around the world. So speaking of around the world and those that control the world, from the everyday person to the leaders of world powers, the sort of glue between everything as it's been for the past 100 years or so are the central banks. We're also getting news that the central banks are moving forward with national digital currencies. They're moving forward with caution. They're moving forward slowly. But that's not to say that something could arise to accelerate their plans, to further things along, which a greater sense of urgency, right? They could really pick up the pace, and at a moment's notice, they could just release this. We've seen this before with the stock exchanges going down and the banking systems and the ATM systems having issues, and then turning on, later on. We see these different systems. We see these different, possibilities out there. We see it, if not being tested, we see coincidences being used as case studies where this could just be our reality all of a sudden one day, because they're not fools. They're intelligent people. They understand what their jobs are, what their missions are, what their objectives are, and I'm sure that they're making their contingency plans, not just in terms of where they would like to go in a world without Bitcoin, but where they may need to go in case Bitcoin does pose a substantial or existential threat to their organization's well-being long-term. We see this in New York with the New York governor signing this new crypto bill. There's even a sense of understanding that things need to change, that other countries are getting ahead. And not only that, but we are going to need to protect ourselves if, and more importantly, when something along this nature, one of these things or all of these things start happening. So it's definitely an intense time. These are very interesting times. These are very exciting times. We think that no matter what happens, we're going to be able to get past this. We're going to be able to get through this, both as a community, as a nation, as a world, because, we believe that through technology, through the decentralized infrastructures, that there's going to inevitably be some amount of chaos and some amount of anarchy. But through that, we think that we may find new structure and new order. And, in order for us to see a world that we're going to be really happy living in, and we're going to be really happy to leave behind, it's really going to take a group effort, an individual group effort, for everyone to come in, to everyone to do their part, for everyone to take responsibility, which is what we encourage you to do your own research, to make your own decisions. And at the same time, if you appreciate what we're doing and if you support what we're doing, we encourage you to jump on over to patreon.com. Feel free to support us over there, or feel free to donate directly to any of our crypto addresses. You can also feel free to visit us at Bitcoin NYS, see what we're doing out here in Rochester, New York, as we are having free classes and meetups and paid classes and other events where we are just sharing information and building a community where people can learn about this technology, learn about new concepts, and I suppose get involved with the area that's most important to them. So if any of this was helpful or inspirational or informative, feel free to subscribe, click that bell icon, notification, comments, like this video. We read all your comments. We love engaging with everyone out there. Unless you're a spam bot, then we'll, hide you forever and delete you out of our lives to the best of our ability. And until next time, I'm glad that together we are minting coins.